Hello, everyone. Welcome to Arts at Blue Roof. This is Lisa Diane Wedgeworth. I am the executive director, and I am really excited to bring Art Talk to you tonight. Art Talk is our series where our artists in residence has a conversation about their work with someone of their choice. And we're excited to introduce you to these two fabulous women today. I'm going to hand the floor over to our fabulous program manager, Connie Martin Trevino.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I would like to introduce you to our current artist in residence, Robin Strayhorn, and she's in conversation with Alicia Tilque. I'd like to give you a little bit of information about Robin and Alicia, and I'll just use my notes here to make life easier. Robin is our current, as I said, artist in residence, and she basically has been working on her show, which opens on Friday. And her work is based off of her travels back and forth from India. So please be free, make time to come and see her show. We are in conversation with Alicia Tilque, and Alicia is an attorney and a producer who has more than 20 years of experience in the entertainment industry. She's worked with Sony Entertainment, Sesame Street or Sesame Network, also too Nickelodeon, and she is originally from Compton, California. And Alicia holds a BA, a MA, and a JD from the University of California, UCLA, and she also has 2 professional credentials from Cornell University. Alicia's love of understanding of art was sparked by Robin's, her lifelong friendship with Robin, and this is why she's here to actually be in conversation and really share what she knows about Robin, and really let's go deep with trying to understand what Robin's work is about. So Robin and Alicia, it's all you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. So Robin, thank you for having me. I want to just get started with a quote that says, "Greatness hits a target that no one else can hit, but genius hits a target that no one else can see." And I've had the privilege of watching Robin, and just through our sisterhood, more than several decades of sisterhood, I've watched Robin capture the beauty, the intelligence, the wisdom, the frequency, the science of the known and the unknown, and translate that onto canvas and other mediums in a way that anyone could understand and appreciate. And it's a journey that's allowed me to see and interact with art in ways I never could have imagined. So tonight we're going to get into the genius of Robin Strayhorn. So Robin, let's start with your background. Like, tell me a little bit about where you're from, what were your earliest influences in art?
Okay, so I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I would say my earliest influences were definitely my mother and father. I thank both of them. I grew up with watching my mother paint these beautiful figurative images and also still lifes, and they were mostly oils. Actually, they were all oils, and I just remember seeing these paintings around me all the time, as early as like 5 years old. And or probably 3 years old, and also I would say my father was an influence too, more so with building. He's like really good with what should I say, remodeling and carpentry and things of that nature. So both of my parents had their own talent. And even, of course, too, my father he played the piano, so he brought in the musical aspect of creativity.
Last name is Strayhorn, so tell us a little bit about that too, and that influence of Billy Strayhorn.
Oh yeah, so then also too, I have great uncle, my grandfather's brother. He was Billy Strayhorn. So I grew up, in a musical household. We heard a lot of stories about Uncle Billy and his son, travels and his experiences with Duke Ellington. So there was that in the background, and it was just a very creative household that I grew up in, because my mother was always either she was sewing, so I learned sewing from her, painting. She did macrame, weaving, different types of weaving. We make soap and candles, all sorts of things. So there was always some sort of creative project going on in the house, and so all me and my siblings, my sister and brother, would participate in all sorts of creative projects. Yeah.
How did you cultivate that further in high school? Because you went to a very interesting high school.
Oh yeah. So I ended up going to this high school in Detroit called Cass Technical High School, and Cass Tech was like the school that everybody wanted to go to, because they have really great curriculums. So most of their programs would prepare people for college. It was sort of like, yeah, I guess I would say it was a college prep school, and they had an amazing art program there. And so I was actually torn between taking focusing on fashion design, because I was interested in fashion, and sewing, tailoring, and those sorts of things. And so I had to, at one point, I had to choose between that and art, and I decided to go with the art. I really didn't want to choose; I wanted to do both. But anyway, the school was great because we had at least 8 different art instructors at the school. So we studied. So we had classes like letter design, calligraphy, photography, printmaking, commercial art, fashion illustration. There was just like so many options of classes, so many different options, life drawing. So I would say I learned a lot of basics there, even though I was creating at home already. I feel like I was able to hone in on some of my skills during high school. Yeah.
And so from the Detroit experience, you then translated that to the West Coast, to Los Angeles. So tell me a little bit about coming to Los Angeles, UCLA, which is where we met, and how your art, your creativity expanded from there.
Okay. Yeah. So by the time, when I came to, I actually went to New York first, and then I was there, but it's fine, because I was in New York for about a year, and then I came out here to California, and then, I was always creating things here and there, because it was just something that I always did. I would work on these drawings, and then during my time at UCLA, I didn't major in art, so I don't have formal training at a college, at the college level. But I was undecided. I took a lot of different classes in different areas, and was actually majored in political science. But by the time I graduated, I thought I wanted to be an attorney too. but anyway, I knew by the time I graduated that was not going to happen. That I didn't want to do that. So, but it was during my time at UCLA that I was starting to, like friends like you specifically, and some other friends would always ask me, well, Robin, why aren't you doing anything with your artwork? Because you have some skills there. So anyway, I started taking my art more seriously after college, and actually it was one of the reasons why I wanted you to interview me, is because you were there at the beginning, and it's because of you. Alicia is the one who introduced me to Barnett Honeywood, and then Barnett once.
So let's talk a little bit about Barnett. Tell the audience who Barnett is and what kind of legacy she had, and then your work together with her.
Oh, okay. So Barnett Honeywood was, wow, you know what? I don't even know what year. Okay, oh gosh, when she started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what year she started, but okay. So a lot of people know who Barnett Honeywood was. She created a lot of images of African Americans and their lifestyles. She had her own unique style, and she became more popular when her artwork was used on the Cosby Show. Which Cosby Show was that? Because there were.
I think it was the
the
Cosby Show
Cosby
initially.
Yes. So anyway, I heard of her and I had seen her artwork before, and but I remember when I was about to graduate, you kept telling me that you wanted to introduce me to her because maybe she could give me some insight as to how to move forward with my art career. So it took a couple of years before that happened. We all couldn't get our schedules right, and then finally, when I got to meet her, we sat in her kitchen. I remember talking to her. She gave me a lot of advice, and then she did become my mentor and helped me to get started. And as far as exhibiting, because I wasn't exhibiting my work so much. I was just creating, and she would just tell me to keep creating, and she would invite me to participate in the exhibits that she was participating in, and I learned a lot. I got a lot of advice from her, and actually, that's when my art started changing some during that time too.
Tell us how it started changing.
Yeah, because what happened is, well, I was painting at the time. Oh, I'm actually. No. So at the time, I was doing a lot of acrylic paintings. But prior to that, I was working with oils. I love oil painting. But excuse me. Anyway, she introduced me to mono printing. So I ended up taking this mono printing workshop with her at Pasadena Armory for the Arts. And I really loved mono printing, and so I really delved into that. So that was a period where, that I really enjoyed. I haven't been mono printing as much, but it's something that I would like to return to.
Now, from that period, I can recall you becoming just so prolific. Your work started appearing on television. Tell us about some of the installations you did. I think it was the Ontario Airport. You just started, as they would say, blowing up.
So what happened is also during that time, I think maybe around the time I met Barnett, or maybe right before, I can't remember. Oh, somewhere around that time. I had this other friend, his name was Raphael, and Alicia knew Raphael too. Yeah. He's no longer with us. But Raphael was a hairstylist, and he worked on various TV shows. So sometimes he would just like take a piece of my artwork and take it over to the show. And so that's how I ended up having some of my artwork on some TV shows back in the, I would say that was in the mid-90s, I believe. And so that, what did you answer?
The Ontario Airport.
Oh, public art.
Okay. Public art.
Yes.
Metro.
Okay. So anyway, so I was, I was showing with Barnett at times, and then participating in different exhibits. And then during the course of that time, I started the public art. I started working in the public art scene. And the first project was Ontario Airport. What happened is, typically with the public art, you go through this whole, you send your information, and there's an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. That comes out, and then you have to apply. But what happened with this project was that they were moving at a fast pace, and they didn't really have time to go through that whole process. So they pretty much decided to choose different artists. Most of the artists on that project were all pretty established artists. I was new on the scene. So I just kind of got lucky in a way. I don't know. I don't like to use that word because
Robin is very modest.
No, but I say that because somebody just gave my name to this lady who worked at LAX airports, and someone who knew her, who had seen my artwork, and so I got a phone call about applying, and so Barnett really encouraged me to go on and come up with a design. I was so nervous because I was like, I don't have anything. She said, well, just look at something that you've already done and use that, and expand on that. And that's exactly what I did. And
I think what was important about that time in your life when you were doing the public art was that I got to see you expand from canvas and maybe fashion, and you were doing tiles and other things that were just beautiful storytelling, pieces of storytelling, and just art for art's sake, so to speak. So I saw you expand, like with the metro. Is that the metro station you were using tiles?
Yes.
So tell me about that process with the tiles, because that was new for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, and actually, we'll rewind a little bit. The first time I started working with tile was actually on the Ontario Airport project, and so I chose to fabricate, even though I had never worked with tile before. I never done glazing, firing, and I didn't have a kiln. I bought the kiln when I started that project. So what happened is, in I think 2002 or 4 is when we did the metro, and so with the MTA station, that was the Rosa Parks station, and so that one I worked on that project with Michael Massenberg, and we teamed up, and because I was already working with tile, I was like, okay, we're gonna make these benches. Let's do work with tile, and so anyway, so that was fabricated. So I created, fabricated by myself and Michael. And so I did a lot of glazing and firing there. Michael's focus on that project was he did these silk screen images on the tiles. And I did all the, because there were tiles that had images of Rosa Parks and different things that were happening during her lifetime. During that,
So it was great to see your vocabulary around art expand into all these different disciplines and mediums. And so let's talk a little bit about India now, because as I've seen you grow as an artist, as I've seen you grow as a person, there came this part of your evolution. And you've always been a kind soul, a beautiful soul, a very highly evolved spiritual person. But there came a time when you started traveling to India and studying in India that I saw that expand to healing work, to more just a deeper essence of consciousness and deeper realms of awareness, which is the title of your artist in residency here. So tell me a little bit about how India even came about when you started traveling in that space.
Okay, so, wow. Let me think about it. Oh, no, I don't have to think too hard. Well, I was interested in going to India because in 2006, I found out about this, my teacher, Guru here, well, he's now my Guru, Sri Kaleshwar. And when I read what he wrote about, I was so intrigued, and I was like, I really want to go.
What did he say?
And study. Well, he was talking about what was in this book I read was called The Gifts of Shirdi Sai Baba.
Oh, yes.
And so he was talking about creation energy and the 5 elements. Like this book really focused on the 5 elements and how the 5 elements are the basis of creation, and it's all around us. We're a part of it inside. We are part of the 5 elements. And so there were some interesting things that he was talking about and how to connect with that energy more.
So what are the 5 elements?
On the 5 elements he refers to are the earth element, fire element, the sky, which is also considered ether, water, and air. Yeah. So there's certain mantras that are connected with those elements, and we would, it's so deep to get into, but it's there's certain mantras that you connect.
I'm smiling because I did the process with the 5 elements. I don't even remember you taught me that.
That's right.
Yes, so I went through the process with the 5 elements, and I had the chanting, and so it was very healing, especially during some times of loss for me. So your artwork and your transformation actually helped me, and I see that living and breathing throughout your artwork, even though it seems like it's a static piece that's completed on a certain day, because you have infused it with this energy and these practices, it's still giving off this healing energy. So tell me a little bit about the ashram you studied at and how you are applying some of this to your work now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was living at this ashram in southern India in Pinakonda, and it's about 3 hours from Bangalore, and maybe 2 now because the roads are better. So anyway, yeah. So,
and it's really remote, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty remote village, although I think it's changing. I know it's changing a lot. So I went there in 2007, and so that was an interesting time because I had a studio in downtown Los Angeles.
Yes.
It was a great workspace.
You were one of the first people to move into that art, because now it's a thriving art district in Los Angeles.
Yes,
but you were one of the first people.
I know nobody would come downtown to visit.
You had a gorgeous loft there.
Yeah,
you were always a pioneer, Robin Strayhorn.
There were others, but definitely weren't as many as there are now. There's so many people downtown. I loved living down there and being able to work in my space, and not have to leave. So in 2007, I decided to go to study in India. So I put everything in storage. That was a big thing, but I'm glad. I don't have any regrets. So I'm glad that I did it, even though things have been challenging since then. If I had to do it again, I would still do it because of what I gained. It was amazing. So So anyway, so I went there, staying there for about a year for that first round, and it was challenging coming back because I was still digesting. Sometimes I feel like I'm still digesting a lot of what happened there. So, but anyway, I feel like my art since then. At first, I wasn't able to create as much because I was kind of floating around because I didn't have a place, and I was also still going back and forth to India over the next years, maybe 5 or 6 years after that. So, were you actively painting in India, or while you were there, you were just mostly studying? Yeah, I was mostly studying, although I did have a few opportunities to create artwork while I was there. Because there were these special processes that we would do while I was there. And there was this one time we were creating a statue. We had to we were making the model out of clay first, and then it was going to be a stone piece. And so I got to do the drawing for the statue. So that was good. So where does that statue live now? You know what? I'm not actually sure where it is now. I don't know. Yeah. And there's a whole story around that. That's way too long to get into. But I'm not sure where it is. Yeah. That's not. So tell me about, let's talk a little bit about the processes that you took from your studies in India and how you've infused them into your work and why. Oh, okay. Like for instance, I want to point out this gorgeous piece behind us. Can you talk a little bit about that and explain what that is and the science or technology behind this piece of work? Okay, yeah. So, and actually I was going to kind of mention that because that's how I've used that in a piece, in another way rather. So anyway, so behind me is what is called a Sri Chakra Yantra. And so the Sri Chakra Yantra is, it's a blueprint. A yantra is like a blueprint. It's an energetic. It's actually represents. It can represent in the Hindu tradition. It can represent a deity. It's the energetic structure connected with a deity. It's like the soul diagram, and actually there's yantras that are connected with different deities, but also with other things. Like there's a yantra connected to the moon. There's a sun, a Surya. The word is Surya but sun, which means sun. There's a yantra that's connected with that. And also we actually have, everybody actually has their own yantra that's connected with their soul, but which you can discover yourself through certain processes. You have to be disciplined, do certain meditations for a long period of time, and you can discover your own yantra in your third eye. But anyway, so this yantra here is called the Sri Chakra Yantra, and it was introduced by Sri Kaleshwar. There are other Sri Chakra Yantras in the Indian tradition, but this one was founded by him, and it represents the divine feminine, the female aspect of creation. But it actually covers all the creation. So there's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of different elements to this yantra. There's a lot of different angles, a lot of and there's certain. Okay, so the thing about a yantra too is that it's typically connected with a mantra. And so what happens is if you use the yantra, you visualize the yantra, and you chant certain mantras that are connected with it, then you create a new energy. Or you just, and it's used for, the yantra can be used to help people focus. It can be used to send healing energy to people. There's a lot.
Because everything is energy.
Yeah.
Now we know the technical elements of the mantra and how it's drawn out. What about some of the colors and patterns? Is there anything specific in terms of the colors and patterns that you use as well?
No, well, I did use red because typically when we draw the yantras, we use red. Well, not always. We don't use black. Okay. But yeah, so that one is I decided to do red because I use red a lot, and I know that in the Indian tradition, a lot of their yantras they use red, white, and actually black sometimes, but we didn't use red so much with ours. I knew that I wanted to use red because I felt like it would be more representative of my experiences there, because we use red a lot. And then the other colors in the background kind of represent the cosmic energy. I wanted it to be like kind of free flowing and kind of represent the formless, if you will. And then on the sides, I have these motifs that I created, that I wanted to include in my piece as well.
So what was the inspiration for the motifs?
To be honest, actually those motifs are something that I had created. I had made these a while back when I was doing monoprint. So I have these stencils that I have. So I always wanted to do something with that one, that design. And so I said, okay, I'm going to revisit that. Gotcha. So I brought it back out. So, but one thing I was going to say too about what I've done is that there's a painting that I did where I drew the Sri Chakra on the canvas first, and I chanted certain mantras.
Yes.
Wow, because this yantra is very powerful for bringing into existence things that you want in your life. So what I'll do is like think about the person, because this is for someone specific.
Yes, exactly.
It was a commission from Alicia.
Yes.
For a friend of hers. So it was for his birthday. So I just focused on him and chanted those mantras while I was drawing in the yantra, so that he could receive that energy. Yes. He can't see the yantra, but I took a picture of it before I painted him on top of the yantra.
Yeah, so that was a very powerful piece. Even as I was gift wrapping it, so to speak, I could feel the energy. Even though it was specific to him, I could still feel that power coming through. Now let's talk about the difference between a yantra and a mandala.
Oh yeah, mandala. Yeah. So so a yantra is different from a mandala in that, of course, first of all, mandala in Sanskrit means actually means circle. So really, it's like a mandala kind of represents a cycle of life, like birth, life, and death, and it also is used. And I know it's found in a lot of different cultures. It's not, mandalas are typically not connected with there's no mantra connected with a mandala. Okay. Whereas a yantra will have a mantra that's connected with it. And also the shapes, you'll see more geometric shapes in the yantra, and a mandala may not have that as much, And then and there's other things too, like I know that in Hinduism and Buddhism they use mandalas to help with spiritual development, and just using that mandala as a tool to help focus during meditations. So in that sense, a mandala is similar to a yantra, because yantra, you do have to focus when you're meditating, when you're using a yantra, you have to focus and see that in your third eye.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So all of this is sacred art, sacred geometry.
Yes. So you would consider, a yantra would definitely be considered to be sacred geometry. Yeah.
So it's interesting because as I've seen the evolution of the genius of Robin Strayhorn, you talked about how you sort of apprenticed with Annette, and then you went to India. And I know you had other influences like your mom and your family and your dad, Raphael, just the fun times of being a young woman and growing. And this evolution takes you to India, and now you're here in Blue Roof at a residency, and I see this apprenticeship, this teaching model continuing to grow as you evolve. So tell me a little bit about Blue Roof and the intersection of Blue Roof and India and Robin Strayhorn. And I know it's a lot, but I see how I personally have seen the growth, and I think it's magnificent. So tell me a little bit about Blue Roof.
Okay, so the last time I came back from India was in 2019, and then I was back in LA for like 4 months, and I went to Detroit. In 2019, I was staying with my mother and family, and so was helping out with my mom, and then the pandemic happened, and then I came back. I didn't come back. I was there longer than I was there for about a year and 4 months. So anyway, so when I came back to LA, I was like, I didn't have a place for a while, but a dear friend let me stay for a while, and I am so thankful for that. Anyway, I was looking for a place, and then I was talking to actually Connie, and Connie was telling me about this residency that she was doing, and I was like, so I applied, and I was still looking for a place. And then I found out that I got the residency, and I was so happy because for a long time I hadn't been able to create. I created here and there. I created a little bit at my mom's and other places that I stayed, but it's different when you have a place and you can.
Yeah, because at this point, a lot of your supplies and canvases and tools were in storage as well.
Oh yeah,
right?
See, that's the other thing. Yeah, right. So it was hard for me to access my supplies. I had access to some, but it was a lot. I would have to go back and forth to storage to get the things that I needed. So it was always a bit of a
so to have a home like Blue Roof is really important for artists.
Yes, I think it's such a wonderful thing that God is doing here, like opening up this space for other artists. And I'm gonna really miss being here.
Well, let's talk about realms of consciousness.
Okay.
So what are you doing here with realms of consciousness?
Oh yes. So what I wanted to do is try to put onto canvas or whatever I would like to use to try to relate some of my experiences there, or some of the things that inspired me while I was in India. And so this was a good start because I feel like there's still so much more that I want to do, but I'm so happy that I was able to have this opportunity to create some works while I'm here. So these pieces are like sort of like I'm honoring my gurus, like Sri Kaleshwar, Shirdi Sai Baba, who is my guru. And then I have another painting that we can't see, but if you come to the exhibit, you can see. So there's another piece that I have of a person by the name of Sri Sarada Devi, and she's another Indian saint who was a consort of Ramakrishna Paramahansa, who's a famous saint from India. And so I really admire her. And then I also have some photographs in this exhibit that I took that when I was traveling to different parts during this last trip there. But I also have these Japa Malas that I created large size. I mean, they're going to be hanging.
Well, tell us what a mala is for those of us who don't know.
Oh, okay. So a mala is they're beads. Oh, I should have worn one. Okay. Anyway, so there's 108 beads on the mala, and it's used for japa meditation. And so japa meditation is the repetition of a mantra, and that's what japa means. It's the repetition of a mantra or a divine name.
And so in other cultures, we might see it as prayer beads.
Yeah,
correct?
right. Yeah, and it's significant because as I said, there's 108 beads on the mala. But I know, I think in the Catholic Church, they have the rosary, which is 54 beads. And it's significant because because the numbers add up to 9, and 9 represents the number of completion. So what I noticed is that when I'm not the only one who notices this, but when you chant a mantra and you chant it for 108 times, it builds, you can feel the energy shift. Yes. Oh, right, because you did that 5 elements. Yeah, so you notice once you finish, there's a shift in the energy, which is very
and it's also
healing.
supposed to help you, the counting, to help you focus, because the mind wanders a lot.
Yes.
So that helps with the focus too. So
yes, very important.
Yeah, and realms of consciousness, realms of awareness. I don't know. So, no, Sachi and our
we were
talking about that one.
Oh yeah, we were this word the other day, Satchitananda, that means bliss, truth,
awareness. Like 3 words.
Yes.
It's a Hindu word.
Yeah, it's a
Sanskrit. And it was interesting because John Coltrane had it was John or Alice?
Yeah, I think it was John. Yeah,
John
called Journey into Satchitananda.
Yes. And so what I find that's very powerful about your work, because for me, watching your work as a student, your place was sanctuary. I would come there and Raphael, we would just have fun, but your art was speaking to me, and I was lucky enough to be able to purchase one of your pieces, Gossip. But those pieces still inspire me to this day, and they have taken me on that journey. So can you talk about a little bit about that journey and into the realms of awareness? Because I think and maybe talk about that in terms of your creative process. Like you're not just putting paint on canvas randomly. One of the things I found so provocative about your work is that it wasn't crude. It was very intelligent and it was very refined, especially for, you were in your 20s at the time. I mean, for a young artist, I'm like, you were just phenomenal. And I would see that translate into your clothes. I mean, walking around UCLA, she was one of the most fashionable people there. I mean, that was before we were really into fashion and you had artists wearing, fashion. You were one of the most fashionable people there. So I saw the intersection of your art across so many different mediums, and yet there's a consciousness to you. So can you, I know I'm can you jump in? Just jump in.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, but I think it's, when I think about in times when I feel like I've been in that really deep creative zone, it's like it's like your consciousness is in another place, or it's like you're connected with everything. It's like your mind, you don't let the mind, like when I think about sometimes when I create it and it's really flowing, it's like it's like you're in the flow, I'm like in the flow, I'm not really thinking about anything. It's like, it's more like being an instrument. Yeah, that's the best way to put it, is being an instrument, because sometimes I feel like I can't take real credit. It's not me in a sense. I don't mean it in a way to down.
No, I understand.
Not to demean myself or anything, but just recognizing that my connection with the divine and with all that is, and because we're all vessels, and if we just get our minds out of the way,
Normally mentioned that. She mentioned that yellow light or that yellow orb that she has in her paintings and how that represents the soul energy. Do you have that outside of like the yantra or some other pieces that you might put in underneath the canvas or as a focal point of the canvas? Do you have that in your process too?
Oh, I have
similar.
Not, no, not like that. Not like with Noni did. What Noni does, I love that she did that. Yeah, I remember asking her about that years ago, and I was inspired by her. Her spirit. She had such she had a very strong sense of spirituality. So I can't say that I did specifically. I was just doing, what I will say is that sometimes when I would create, certain things would happen which I wasn't aware of at the time. Like sometimes I would go back and look at a piece and I'm like, oh, I don't even know how that happened. Or just, yeah. Or where, yeah. But it, yeah. But it was subliminal.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's play a little game. Let's play a little game. So I'm going to say art as a word, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Let's have fun. Let's have fun here.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with. So you're going to answer, you're going to fill in the blank, and then you're going to give me a brief description of why. So let's talk about art as architecture.
Oh, okay. You know what? Right away, my favorite, I have mentioned two. Two of my favorite architects are Antoni Gaudi, Barcelona. I love his buildings. His structures are incredible. And unfortunately, I haven't had an opportunity to see his work in person. I was able to go to Barcelona. The first thing that I did when I got there was I went to the building, the Familia, Sagrada Familia, that building. But also Park Quell, and the reason I love his architecture, and well, a couple of reasons is that I love the curves. I love like some of the buildings I went into. They were like there's no like squares or straight lines. There's all these curves. Yeah, it's so. But not all his buildings, but it was really. I love his work, and also the tile work that. Because I love to work with tiles. So I love some of the mosaics that are part of some of his structures. And the other architect that I love is Zaha Hadid. She's an Iraqi British architect. Her work is amazing. I love her buildings because they're so curvaceous and it's so massive. They're just incredible. I would love to see some of her buildings in person.
Sounds good. Okay, art as sanctuary.
Oh, Blue Roof.
Now, how so? That's a good one.
Yeah, because it's been like a sanctuary.
It's so funny because Blue Roof is a church, right? Obviously a church.
Right, exactly.
Wow,
right.
Okay, so tell me about Blue Roof as sanctuary.
Yeah, you know what, because it's been, even though I was starting to do a little bit of artwork at home, it's different when you have a studio to go to. So it's been nice to come over here, although I will say that I had a lot of other energies, I've been saying this all along, other energies pulling at me, like other responsibilities. And so, but I'm so happy that I was able to come here. I can't believe this is the last week.
Like when you literally, I'm glad you said that because even when I came on site, it just felt safe. It just felt, I felt like I was home, and Connie came and gave me a big hug, and I'm like, I'm home. It's just the sweetest energy in this.
Yes, that's so perfect that you said the home, because that's how I feel too. I feel like it's home, and I really do. Because the energy here is really good, and just being around here, other artists, even though I didn't see people all the time, it's just knowing that there's other artists doing their thing in the space is like, it's so nice.
It does feel good here.
Yes.
Art as a disruptor.
Oh, art as a disruptor. Oh, maybe quilts. Yeah, quilt making.
Interesting. How so?
Because quilting back in the day, it was like used to. Oh,
you were right during the slave. During During slavery?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
that's powerful, Robin.
Yeah, during slavery. Yeah.
It was
used to.
It was hidden in plain sight,
Right.
and it was helping people technically break the law, but go to freedom.
Yeah.
And that is powerful.
Yes, right?
Yes.
That's so awesome.
And you quilt, or your mom?
Oh, and speaking of that, yeah, and quilting, my mother quilts too, right? Now I haven't done any quilting yet, but my mother has done. She's makes some beautiful quilts.
Yeah.
I was inspired to do some, but I haven't been able to delve into that.
And it's interesting you say that, because we have seen in recent, definitely since the pandemic and everything that's going on politically in Black art, the different faces and the new vocabulary of Black art in terms of being poignant and provocative and a disruptor. I'm so glad you said that, because it's anchored in our history. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So art as fashion.
Oh, art as fashion. Oh, not me. Oh, you know what? Art is fashion. Oh, I think it is my sister, my sister Lynn. Yeah, because she was always like, she always was so stylish. I think of her, and my sister Sherry as well. They're both, they're. So I see, but I mean, nobody has seen them. But I just, when I think of, I've seen them. I mean, you've seen them, but I mean, I shouldn't say nobody's seen, but I do have friends who've seen them. But I'm just saying, certain people just have that style. And so I look at,
And now some of the top designers are borrowing. I mean, you could definitely see art in fashion now. I mean, the intersection, especially with music and culture, especially Black art, Black narratives are definitely being reflected in fashion on the runways. And the clothing prices. I mean, you do have Dapper Dan. It's Dapper Dan, I think, from Harlem, but you are definitely seeing that intersection of art and culture reflected in clothing in Milano, in some places that you would not see our art reflected, our consciousness reflected, but it's now being, I don't know if I want to say the word appropriated, because you have a lot of Black designers now too who are getting that vision out there as well. So and you definitely were one of the more fashionable ones, because you not only did created clothing, but you were doing things with handbags and shoes and mud cloth and all of that back in the day.
I forgot. I totally forgot about all of that. All right. Gosh. See, I'm forgetting. I forgot. I used to, because I love to sew, and I used to sew a lot, and I would. You
were doing a lot with African prints and
textiles. Yes, you took the words out of my mouth. Because I had a lot of friends from Senegal, and I would get So and I would get fabrics from there and make clothing using the African fabrics.
And I was always jealous. And art as, let me see. Art as nature.
Oh, art as nature. I automatically, I think of the Grand Canyon, and I think of there's some caves that I saw when I was in India. They're called the Yagante Caves. Yagante Caves. I forget what area that was in. But the Grand Canyon. Oh gosh, there's so much. I know there's something.
Well,
there's a lot of places.
And the last one I'm going to ask, just art as art.
Oh, art as art.
Art as art.
Wow. You know, that makes me think. Actually, that makes me think of growing up. Actually, because art was just like a part of everyday life. So we were always creating something. Just walking around, just seeing the environment, looking at people. People are art to me too.
And you're great at capturing the spirit of people, even in your abstract forms. I noticed that, like masculinities, friends, gossip, those were kind of abstract forms, you know, but they captured the energy and spirit of our soul, of humanity. That was powerful. So, Robin, I'm going to now turn it over to see if we have any questions out there.
I do have a question. Can you talk a little bit about your painting process? I know everyone will see your work when they attend the exhibition, but even your previous work, you have this style where you create this abstract background and then you paint in a translucent manner on top of that. Can you talk about your that process and that intention and what that visually means to you?
Oh, yes, okay. So what, you know, gosh, I love abstract art, and I love, I love to overlap the abstract with figurative. And so what I'll do is sometimes I like to go in and just play around with certain colors and create these backgrounds and then come in on top of it with paint, but I do it lighter. Yeah, like where it's kind of translucent. And one of the reasons why I was doing that too, with the creating these pieces of where it's more translucent, was that I wanted the background colors to show through. I want them to show through, and then I want to like have them, like for instance, I have this one painting that you guys can't see right now. It's a painting that Sri Chakra. I wanted to be like translucent to kind of show that he's like kind of in the part of the form. He's part of the form and formless at the same time. So it's sort of like a merging of the form and the formless together. And then, but it's interesting because when I paint it, I'm like, I add a little bit of water. Sometimes I use another medium, well, basically just a medium to slow down the drying process, a retarder. But then I add water. It's almost like I'm painting like watercolor. I'm using acrylics, but I'm painting it kind of in a watercolor sort of style. But it's interesting because I want to try some other things. It's like, as an artist, it's like, gosh, there's so many things that we could experiment with. But anyway, it's been fun working and with that style, that technique, but I am interested in trying some other things. I don't know if I answered the question properly, but
I think you answered that. I thought that was pretty informative. I mean, sometimes it's hard when someone asks you a process and you're like, what do I do? Because you're just doing it, you know, intuitively. You know?
Yeah. So I do, so I just lay down a lot of color and I just try to be loose with it. Like I have a couple of other pieces that I started in that same manner during this session, but I do not like those colors. It's a hot mess, this one anyway. So, but it's okay because I'm gonna go back into it some more. Because sometimes it's interesting because when I do that process, sometimes I feel like it's flowing and the colors are coming together in a beautiful way, and other times it just seems too like I tried too hard, or I don't know, or the energy just wasn't flowing at the time. But it's just that's art. Yeah. That's the process, right?
And I think a lot of artists can relate to that. I think, you know, it's not paint by numbers; it's paint by spirit. It's paint by something higher, right? So
sometimes we have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Robin. I do want to say that so that everyone can actually see your work in person, that your show, Realms of Consciousness, actually opens and people are invited to come in person and see the show on Friday, August the 5th from 6 to 8, and then by appointment after that. So Robin will be here. It'll be festive. It'll be colorful, and we actually invite everyone to come by and visit.
Wow.
So
Thank
you, Robin and Alicia, for the talk. It's been great. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. And Robin, I know you will. And then also too, in addition to the art opening on Friday, we are doing a Q&A. We are at Arts at Blue Roof, are having an open call right now for the artist residency. So we're asking people to apply. And on Saturday, we're doing a Q&A that will answer any questions that you may have. So please check us out on Saturday as well, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Visit us on Instagram, Arts at Blue Roof, and you'll be able to get the link. So thank you guys, and thank you everyone for attending.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yes.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Galia.
Oh, you're welcome. You guys have a great one.
Blue Roof.
Bye-bye.
Bye.